It's a new era in the WWE. At least that's what they keep saying. Quick note, the end of this match is pretty awesome, so if you don't want to watch 15 minutes or you don't want to hear me talk, or you do watch the video, make sure to at least check out the ending. I thought it was pretty sweet. We're talking the new era in WWE because WWE keeps proclaiming it. And made some videos this weekend, which you guys can check out. I'll link in the description, talking about NXT. And here's the thing. We have 50 superstars down at NXT, 15 women. You look at who's on the main roster now. You had guys like Damian Sandow get released. Now, most of the releases that happened last week, people weren't on TV. That's cool. You have a guy like Damian Sandow who's over, and they could have put on TV, but they didn't have anything for him. In today's era in WWE, if it is a new era, whether it's, the Shane McMahon era, whether it's the family, whatever the actual era is, I think here's the hard reality. We're all getting upset when superstars don't get pushed, and I, more than the most, was very upset about Damian Sandow, because when you have a guy over and you just don't go nowhere with it, it sucks. But then you listen to Damian Sandow talk about it in his Rolling Stone interview, which I highly suggest you read, about he could pretty much do anything, and the whole Mizdow thing kind of came about from him, and he just did it, and then it worked, and it got over, and he said, he was talking about how he made something out of nothing, and he's one of the most humble dudes I've ever heard. But here's the thing, and here's the harsh reality of it. Past WWE, besides Stone Cold, because Stone Cold was kind of a shorter build stardom-wise. He had 2 or 3 years on the top, 97, 98 to like 2001, 2000. The kind of the longevity. Now, he was still around doing other stuff or, being a big part of the WWE, and before that, stunning Steve Austin and whatnot. But for the most part, his big run on the main roster didn't last very long. So the question is, when you had guys in the past, like Bruno Sammartino was champion for 7 years, you had superstars that are around and on top of the company like Flair, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, that have been around a long time, that were running the company essentially, the top guys. Nowadays, you have your top guys that are getting injured more, and they're retiring more because they're thinking about their health, versus a lot of guys from the past that would keep wrestling through those health issues. We see people retire now in the NFL. The one big one that comes to me is Chris Borland, who went to Wisconsin. I was a big Chris Borland fan, watched all the games for the Badgers, and then he decides to retire after one season with the 49ers in the NFL. You had Daniel Bryan, who has been in the WWE a very long time, but his main roster push, and granted it was because of injuries, we most likely would have seen Daniel Bryan wrestle for years afterwards, but his big main event push was around a year, 2 years, maybe 3 years that it was solid. The World Heavyweight Championship run, the tag team with Kane that was over, and then his eventual run towards the title. And that was with a less roster. That was with NXT not as great as it is today. That is without WWE signing as many talents as they have today. That's without the global Cruiserweight series, the Cruiserweight Classic. That's without having so many other superstars that are now in the company. They've signed 5 former TNA top superstars that were the top guys in the company, that held the world championships, that were the biggest deal in that company, people that are big in New Japan. Is there going to be room for them? Will WWE just clean house and get rid of all their homegrown superstars in favor of these other guys? In this new era, are we going to see guys that really only get 1 or 2 years kind of make their name in the WWE? If they continue to sell merch and they're over, they do their thing, but eventually they move on to other avenues. Do they use WWE as a launching pad to do other stuff? Do they go the Rock's route essentially, but more mainstream, more upbeat in today's times? Because here's the thing. When you look at this new era, people keep saying it's the same old shit. Bad WWE TV writing, 50-50 booking, things that don't make sense. I 100% agree. I look at the new era as more in terms of NXT, in terms of WWE doing something they would never do. WWE would never do something like the Cruiserweight Classic, besides Cruiserweight Wrestling in the past, as far as letting all these indie guys come in. They have always made indie superstars a part of shows, whether they're security guards or they're a part of the show, the local people, that they do tryouts in the cities before their Raws and SmackDowns. I get that 100%. But when it comes to actually like having these guys in the company, going away from the stereotypical Vince McMahon, Batistas, and Triple H's, and Booker T's, like the big bodybuilding guys that really stood out, that's a new era. That's something new. A guy like Kevin Owens, who just the amount of people that criticize him for being fat, dude, if he's that fat and he can do those big moves, Jesus Christ, I want to be fat like Kevin Owens. I mean, I'm actually way fatter than Kevin Owens, but you know what I mean. In the new era in the WWE, when you truly think about it, is it more necessarily about the storylines, the scripts? Is it more about what we can come to expect? I'm not making any excuses for WWE creative because, to be honest with you, WWE creative has been really bad. Now, I made a video touching on NXT as well and talking about why NXT is so great. And you guys in the comments, which if you're at this part of the video, thank you for continuing watching. I'll have something coming up for you soon, is people left constructive criticism. And this is what I love. I want these videos to open up a discussion. I don't want fuck WWE type things. I want actual discussions. Not what WWE can do to fix it because we don't know. We don't run the company. But some interesting comments that kind of came up in that video, the WWE NXT video, were, back in 2014, it was homegrown. WWE had, maybe brought in some guys like Zayn or Owens, and, they kind of did their thing, and they had awesome storylines. And now it's just sign the big names, bring them in, they have a little run, and then they either go to the main roster or, in the case of James Storm, they go back to TNA. There really isn't as many great storylines as there were back then, which I think is true. I mean, if you look at past shows, and this could just be because of how close they were, we're never going to, I don't think, right now in NXT at least, we're not going to get another Bayley Sasha Banks. Do you know what I mean? We're not going to get those stories right now because of all these big name superstars, the new era, the changes that are happening within the company, people that they would probably never sign or look twice at are coming in for these matches in NXT. They're coming in to get signed to developmental. They're coming in for these deals. In truth, WWE never would have done that in the past. So NXT, man, when you truly think about it, it's a phenomenon. They're touring worldwide. They're now coming over to Scotland. They were just in Washington or Oregon this weekend, while still running shows in Tampa. The WWE who, continuously runs shows everywhere, and they split their roster, which if you saw the card from SmackDown a few weeks ago, not a few weeks ago, literally yesterday, the report on Wrestling Inc. what the actual match card was, you look at it and you're like, oh God. Seems like everybody on that card, it was like the weirdest match card I think I've ever seen. Like Big Show and Kane versus the Wyatts. And the main event was Kalisto, Dean Ambrose. And there was no big names on there as far as headliners. Now, I know WWE right now is lacking major star power. Guys like Kevin Owens are starting to get to that big heat role. You have AJ Styles, who's getting that big push. You have Roman Reigns, who's obviously the top guy, at least in WWE's mind. And, if you're WWE, you want Roman Reigns to be the guy that's around for 10 years. You want him to be the company man. If that's who they are picking, he should be around a long time. And in a new era, you have to honestly think about this. If you look at the guys that had the mainstays, the Flairs, the Triple H's, the John Cena's, John Cena really never reinvented himself in a way. And I know a lot of people hate the fact that there's this top guy that constantly wins. Now, the United States Open Challenge was great, and I think a lot of people agree that it was awesome. It's one of the things I can't wait for John Cena to be back. I hope he gets the title, and I hope he starts him up again. I think it's great. It's a great way to get over superstars without them having to win. We're in an age where we're so focused on win-loss records that we don't pay attention to what's actually entertaining. There's nothing wrong with taking a loss in wrestling if there's psychology and reasoning behind it. In this new era, I want reasons to watch. I want to see if a guy is working as a heel. I want to see him parade the crowd like my Baron Corbin video. Which, if you've watched this far in the video, what are your honest opinions of Baron Corbin? Let me know in the description. But you have to have guys that are making a point for why they're winning or losing. Because it is true if, they don't really have anything for you and you're kind of an enhancement talent or you're just going out there losing, it sucks. And we can nitpick that all day, every day. But in the case where, like AJ Styles versus Chris Jericho, people lost their minds. They couldn't believe that they brought in AJ Styles in his first pay-per-view, the biggest match. They had him lose. Why did they have him lose? What reason could WWE possibly do to bury AJ Styles? They just brought him in to lose. Thinking short term, not thinking long term, that, yes, it was his very first WrestleMania. When you think if you just come into a company, and granted, he is a longtime wrestler, New Japan, TNA, ROH, big name. He's not a rookie in the WWE by any means, unlike, what Jericho is saying, like, welcome to the big leagues, kid. But when you think about it, him in the WWE in this new time, should he win his very first Mania match? Probably not. But because of the fact that he lost, he was able to win number one contendership, and he's now challenging for the title 2 pay-per-views in a row. But that loss at Mania and being able to overcome that is what makes it better. Now, here's the thing. I really wish WWE would change up the creative team. I think a lot of us would. A lot of the talks now is we should have a brand split. If you looked at the live event from Saturday, you'd be like, oh, God, I don't think we can handle a brand split. But the amount of superstars they have, I think that the brand split would work great on live shows. And they already do that, right? You have the A team, the B team. You have 2 different traveling teams, kind of like Raw and SmackDown. Mauro Ranallo is great. The SmackDown commentary team gets stories over. Now, if you don't like Mauro Ranallo, that's your opinion. I personally love him. I think that when you have him on a match, like especially if you watch the pre-shows with like Kalisto and Ryback, and you hear him bring emotion to the match. These are guys that they don't have to go out there and absolutely kill themselves in PWG-style matches. WWE Creative just has to help them out with these stories. The big comments I see on a lot of my videos is that WWE doesn't have characters anymore. They don't really have characters who you can kind of get behind. Max Landis' wrestling isn't wrestling. The evolution of Triple H, you think about it over the long term, and everything that Triple H actually evolved into made him into what Triple H is today. You look at a lot of the guys on the roster now, they're just very vanilla. Before Damian Sandow, he came in as the intellectual savior to the masses, right? It kind of got a pop. He eventually went on to win Money in the Bank. And then you had him lose. And that's kind of where the momentum might have died. People thought he would go on to the biggest thing ever. And I know, looking back now, it sucks. I wish Damian Sandow would have got that push. But he didn't get the World Heavyweight Championship push. I think mainly because WWE didn't want, when they were merging the titles, they didn't want John Cena to be the only person in the history books not to successfully cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase. That's something a lot of people missed. You don't want John Cena in the history books was the only guy that didn't cash in the briefcase. Well, no. Now we have Sandow. Sandow went on to do nothing. He found those roles that really stuck out. He got the crowd over. And in his interview with Rolling Stone, he said, I'm fine with WWE giving them other superstars a chance to get over. I'm already over. I was getting the pops. WWE knows if they put me out there in the terms of Ms. Sandow or, when he was super over doing his thing, that he would get that reaction. And the fact that he's willing to admit, he's humble enough to say in an interview, I don't need time. We bitch and complain that Damian Sandow isn't on TV, but when the guy himself is saying, listen, I get it. I would have loved to be on TV more. I would have loved to do more stuff. But here's the thing. I was already over. I'm perfectly fine with other guys getting the opportunity who need to get over. By the way, this is sweet. I love this finish. Other guys need to get that chance. So while we're looking at this new era as they're not doing anything different, they're not doing this, they're not doing that, they kind of had a good point. We're not going to always get guys over in this new era. It's not always going to make sense. It's not always going to be perfect. There's going to be a lot of stuff we probably hate, but there's going to be a lot of stuff that's great, and we are in a transition period. So a lot of people right now are quick to judge this new era because it's still PG. There's still no swearing or constant blood unless it's packets or cleaning up Samoa Joe at an NXT pay-per-view. We are in a new era. When you have other stars in other sports constantly getting injured, being out, even in the WWE, and yet as fans, we look and say, it's bullshit they're stopping this match for the superstars. Oh, they should wrestle. Why? Look at the damage past superstars have done to their body. Our entertainment shouldn't eclipse the safety and well-being of the superstars that give us that entertainment that we love so much. So in this new era, we're going to have to be patient. WWE took so long Thanks to Daniel Bryan to finally recognize the power of these young guys, these smaller guys that can create some epic and magic moments. So in this new era, it may not be great right now, and it may take a while, but eventually, those stepping stones that WWE is working so slowly towards could really pay off. Until next time, it's your boy Tubby. Thank you very much for watching this video, and we will see you all later.